AFC North. I think this is going to be one of the most entertaining divisions in the league. Each team gives
Second
us
best. I'd say second best. Sorry to cut you off, but I'd say second best in the league.
it may be the best by years end. I'm not as high on the
Ooh,
West as you are.
I am shit.
And
Look, hey, we know this is a quarterback-driven league, baby, and they got all of them.
so which team do you want to hit? Because I got a topic for each of them.
Let's start off with the obvious answer in the Cleveland Browns.
All right, Cleveland Browns. So let me pitch you my Deshaun Watson take. He has a weird kink. It's disgusting. Let's hear Roger Goodell's words on it, actually, before we get into it. I think that's important for the viewers, just in case you didn't hear what Commissioner Goodell had to say. Come on, Raj.
The league opted to appeal the Deshaun Watson decision, and why you opted to go back to seeking a full year suspension?
Well, as you know, it's part of the CBA. The two parties had that right. Either party could certainly challenge and appeal that, and that was something that we thought was our right to do, as well as the NFLPS, and we decided it was the right thing to do.
Why go back to seeking the full year suspension?
Because we've seen the evidence. She was very clear about the evidence. She reinforced the evidence that there was multiple violations here, and they were egregious, and it was predatory behavior. Those are things that we always felt were really important for us to address in a way that's responsible.
Roger, does the league view it as 4 different violations versus one?
I think that's the case. That's what the facts.
All right, so Roger Goodell pretty much just put out there, hey, that 6 games wasn't enough because we think Deshaun Watson is a predator. And as you hear him stuttering, you can tell that Roger Goodell could care less about what Deshaun Watson did. And because the Haslam family decided to give Deshaun Watson a $230 million contract fully guaranteed and only $1 million in his first season, expecting him to get suspended so he wouldn't lose any money. The other owners are upset because now they got quarterbacks saying, "Hey, how the hell is he getting all this money guaranteed?" And he got stuff hanging over his head. We have nothing,
And
you know.
he hasn't really won anything.
Yeah, right. He's a second round playoff guy. Come on now, what are we doing here? And I understand the stances that the other owners take, mainly because they don't want to pay. They don't want to give players guaranteed money. They don't want to take out $150 million and put it in escrow. And I could never tell a man, "Hey, you go write a $200 million check right now and feel good about it." I don't feel. I hate spending over $1,000 in one transaction. I just hate it. I just fucking hate it. I've hated it for years. I don't want to spend that much money in one damn transaction. Sorry, I'm cheap. But I don't really think Roger Goodell is convicted about Deshaun Watson sitting out. I just think he is listening to his bosses and he's echoing what they want. And it's not even about the weird sexual behavior. It's about the guaranteed contract. And hold on, last point. I say all of that to say this has never happened, but I don't think the league should be responsible for giving out punishments. We're talking about, these owners, they're capitalists. When outside of football, everywhere else they're capitalists, but in football they want some controls here, right? I think that teams should be responsible for punishment, because if Jimmy and D Haslam say, "Hey, we want this guy on our team and we're willing to deal with the negative pushback," well, let them deal with it. Like, it's their franchise. Who cares if the league punishes a player? There's nothing legal happening here. Yes, it happened civilly. And I'm not saying that Deshaun Watson didn't do anything wrong. Like, I'm not getting into that because I don't know. But what I will say is, if the legal system's not dealing with them and somebody else wants to hire them to work for their company, then he should be able to work for their company. Like, suspending players for not acting according to our social standards is the issue that we have in this country of elevating celebrities and athletes to being like role models. Deshaun Watson shouldn't be your kid's fucking role model.
I agree with you, but I also disagree. And this is where I disagree. The NFL is the company. Look at the jersey I'm wearing. That logo's on there. They share the amount of money that they make. If people boycott Cleveland Browns games and the Browns make the least in revenue, but it's a revenue split, everybody has a say-so kind of in this. And so I think I'm okay with the league being the ones that hand down the punishment. I see what you're saying, though, team doing it. I'm okay with the league doing it. I think that it needs to be similar, and I know that this is a wild comparison. It should be similar to the college football playoffs. They should have I get it, the owners are basically the chairmen of the board. There's a board of directors, and it's them. But I think that it should be similarly to how they had this appeal with a federal judge. They need to get a committee that comes together on this where it's it would be tough. I know that in that college football committee, they have current ADs, they've had former ADs.
Don't compare anything to that college committee because it's a shit show with no centralized leadership.
Lisa Rice, like people like that have been a part of this stuff, and now she's a part of that group that's behind the Broncos. But
she was a politician.
She's.
I need to go be a politician so I can get rich too.
That's how it works, and so. But I think that it will be nice to have a committee or a board of directors. Jay-Z can be a part of it. We can make this thing work. And I know it's like, well, what the fuck does Jay-Z know about punishing an NFL team? At the end of the day, a lot of these people run companies. And I think that everybody can look at something and know when something's wrong. And like I said, that's why even with the Court of Appeals and you know, them doing this with the NFLPA, you had that federal judge, and that's what they recommended. And so either leave it at that, or if that's not good enough, then you need to have a separate committee that is unbiased, that doesn't own a team. It sucks because at the end of the day, there's always biasness because people watch the NFL and they have they're fans of players and teams, and they're from cities where these teams reside, and they can have a factor that could have a factor in their decision making. But at the end of the day, we do everything else that way. If you decide to have a jury trial, it's 9 of your peers, 11. It depends on the number, I guess, depending on where you're at. But it's a jury of your peers that come together to decide your fate. And I think that it should be similar with that. They're a big enough corporation to do it. And at this point, and it's weird because you wouldn't want to get sponsors involved either, right? Like, you would hate for somebody to be the former vice president of Fox, or Jeff Bezos's fucking wife is on there. Like somebody that has some indirectness to what the NFL makes his money off of. Apple is throwing their hat in for NFL Sunday Ticket. So we can't get Tim Cook to assign, the Woz or somebody to be on that shit either. But they could. I feel like there's a better way of doing it if they're not okay with like the ruling, for instance. On
well, and that's the thing, right? They in the new CBA, they brought in the third party to do it because everyone, like Jerry Jones specifically, and Bob Kraft, the two most influential and powerful owners in the league. Sorry, Stan Kroenke, you may have the money, but you're not Bob Kraft or Jerry Jones when it comes to your clout in the NFL. Jerry Jones got you to LA. But when they got upset about the way Tom and Zeke were both punished, and that made the change for the third party arbiter. Well, if you're going to have the third party and then Roger can go and appeal the third party and choose who hears it, what the hell does the third party do then? Like, why do you even have that third party? Because they're impotent. Like, because now they're only allowed to have power if Roger likes it. Because Roger, granted, he farmed it out to this former judge, but he could have received it himself.
And that's why I think that there should be something that's done differently. I don't want it to be one of these things where it's like a lobbyist type thing, right? Like for the competition committee, Rich McKay is the head of it. Rich McKay doesn't own a team. He's a president of our Atlanta Falcons, and
he pretty much owns us.
He runs the team, and
we are all here to do what Falcons do. Look at that.
He's got a history in the league because he was a GM for so long, and then his daddy was either the GM or the owner, if I'm not mistaken. No, he was the GM of the Bucs when they were really bad, or he was the coach. I don't even remember. He's the son of somebody that had something to do with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And my point is, he's the head of the competition committee, but they vote on the rules, and it's the owners that ultimately make that decision, right?
John McKay, he was Mr. USC, 4 natties.
Yeah, but he also was like either the coach of the Bucs or was the GM before Rich. I think he was the coach.
I'll look it up while you're still.
But my point is that they have a competition committee when it comes to rules. There needs to be some sort of a committee or chairmen of the board. You can get Truett Cathy in on it or something. I mean, not Truett, but Bubba or the other Cathy. Like,
yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I just think
you could put together this conglomerate of.
I just think that
how they would handle it.
If Roger Goodell is not going to be the decision maker, he needs to be removed from the appeals process as well.
Exactly, and that's what I agree. Then maybe the NFL owner should vote on it. And even if
I don't like that because they have a vested interest.
Well, and I was going to say, and even if them voting on it would be similar to,
third party no appeal,
because them listening to Rodgers listening to them at the end of the day,
and that's my issue
is the owner's decision.
And that's my issue with the Deshaun thing is it's not Roger taking a stance against predatory behavior. It's Roger standing with his fellow owners because they want him to get his pockets ran because they don't want him to only lose $700,000 of $230 million guaranteed. That's what it all boils down to. It's all about the money. It's not about what he did because maybe he has a lot more women coming out against him, but Bob Kraft was getting the good old rub and tug too.
But his was different. It was different.
I know it's different.
Sting was on the place, not him. He just so happened to have been there.
I agree, but Jerry had his stuff that came up. You know what I mean? You got the whole Washington franchise.
Jerry took a knee and looked into the camera, man.
You got the whole thing that's going on with the Washington franchise. Do you think that Deshaun Watson is the biggest predator associated with the NFL?
No, not at all. I
bet the biggest.
I disagree. He's got a really weird fetish.
Huh?
He has a fetish, and
it's weird.
Predatory, I guess, depending on what the circumstances are around it. We just don't know, and and that my thought was too when I read that quote. When he said it was predatory, I'm like, well, Roger, then why didn't you just I don't understand. I get it. That's the process. You got the third party to come in, but at that point, there should be just a suspension. And that
he doesn't want blood on his hands.
Did they go through that with every fucking suspension?
I don't think so. He doesn't want blood on his hands. He wants to be the good guy. Hey, look here, man.
He wants to be the guy that pushed it to the limit and was just like, this was the final stage. I'm sorry, guys. No matter who's happy or who's not, this is how the cookie crumbled. I mean,
last thing on this, because we got to transition. We need a Molly.
Run through the AFC North.
Yeah, we need a Molly or a Joy to keep us on track. But here's the thing, bro. All those massage therapists could have walked out because it was not forcible vaginal or anal penetration. It was hand jobs. I'm not defending him.
But it was actually more so. He wasn't moving their hand to tap him more. It was more indecent exposure than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it was more indecent exposure than anything.
Yeah, and him doing a little Peyton Manning on the training table at Tennessee.
People forget about that, and how that.
I'm not excusing or saying the behavior is okay, but I'm saying we got to properly contextualize the stuff. But to the rest of the AFC North, do you think the Browns are going to be worth a damn this year?
It really will depend on how many games he plays, and Vegas has even pulled their over-under win total, so got nothing there for you.
He's gonna play 5. He's gonna play 5 games.
I tell you what. Let's say, all right. Well, no. Let's just go off the current rule. Let's say it stands 6 games. If they get to 3-3 without him, or even 2-4, I think that at 2-4 they could go 10-7.
Second.
And go 3-3, they could go 11-6. So, this is what I would like to think, because I guess after we go through everybody, then we'll do the playoff aspect. So I'll just say this: yes, I think that they can win games this season with or without him, but without him entirely, let's say he were to miss the entire season, 8-9, 9-8 tops.
Okay, let's talk Baltimore. I think Baltimore wins this division. Yeah, Baltimore wins the division. I think people are so wrong on Lamar Jackson and his contract. They're talking about Baltimore not wanting to pay Lamar or not wanting to commit to him long term. I think Baltimore has offered a pretty nice contract. I think under most circumstances, most quarterbacks would have taken the offer that Baltimore has given. We don't know that final number because Baltimore has one of the best front offices in the league. They handle good business. Lamar added another 15 pounds. He's yoked. And Lamar has said, his camp has said, I want to hit free agency. Like, I want to hit true free agency. Not because I want to leave Baltimore, but if I hit true free agency, I can pull the Kirk Cousins. And I think that's what he's trying to do. And I'm so tired of the traditional media beating up on him for having his mom as an agent. But I forgot what podcast I was listening to. I think it was the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, a former GM in the league. He was like,
he's good too.
He is. He's like, as a quarterback, you don't need an agent because your contract is, what did the next guy get? Give me $1 million more. Why would you pay this guy to negotiate why would you pay somebody to negotiate for you when you are negotiating off of what the last guy got if you're a top end quarterback?
That, and then when Deshaun Watson gets a fully guaranteed contract and you've done just as much in the playoffs
and won MVP.
And then, by the way, you've got one of those MVP awards. It's going to be really hard to tell you that, well, I tell you what, if you guys don't want me, somebody else will check you later.
Hey, real quick, you want me to tell you like a blind spot for fans? I got a friend, he's a Philly fan, and he works in sports. He's been on this pod. Shout out to my guy. I sent him a little KD piece, right? About KD to the 76ers. I said Tobias, Maxey, and Junk. Same thing I sent to the group. He said, pass. I like Maxey too much. Boy, fans be tripping sometimes.
They are. I would take that deal personally. I don't think that not New Jersey. I don't think Brooklyn will, just because I think the Jaylen Brown trade, if the Boston really offer that, I'd much rather have that than Tobias and Maxey and Junk. So that alone, that's the reason why I wouldn't take the deal if I'm the Nets. But yes, that blind spot can really detract you from what's going on. But then again, you could simply say that, okay, so basically we're trading the Brooklyn Nets Joel Embiid for Kyrie Irving, because that's what it would have been.
Yeah. Guess what? I like that team better. I like that team a lot better.
Yeah, Embiid, he led the league in scoring, second in MVP for second straight year, and he's a big man as opposed to another guy that absolutely has to have the ball in his hand on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Big difference, right?
But back to the AFC North. I got Baltimore winning that division. I think they come back. I think Lamar gets paid at the end of the year, and it's a nice contract, like you were saying. He's going to use that Deshaun Watson contract as leverage.
Lack of weapons. I think he's a guy that does do a lot, and we'll have to see how good the running game is, because if I remember, not last year because of all the injuries, but even the year before that, without him, it wasn't like J.K. Dobbins was getting off. Gus Edwards would have some nice moments here and there, but it wasn't like they were really getting off running the ball without him. And so maybe that's a part of their offense, but I don't like the weapons. They got rid of Hollywood Brown. They got another tight end, the guy that won the tight end award in college. They got him. So you've got two tight ends. So I guess if he clearly likes tight ends. He throws the ball. Just reminds me a lot of Michael Vick. It really does. Mark Andrews is Algie Crumpler 2.0, maybe a little bit more skilled, but like he reminds me a lot. It reminds me a lot of that Falcon shit. And so I think that the ceiling of that team is 12-5, and then the floor is like if things go really wrong, 7-10. But
people smarter than
that's
me
the floor though.
People smarter than me said that in Bobby Petrino's offense, Lamar Jackson threw the ball outside the hash is better. So there's an argument that their offense, Greg Roman's actually holding him back and not allowing him to make those throws on a regular basis. I don't know. I'm just saying what people smarter than me say.
I tell you what, you think John Harbaugh would be interested in bringing Bobby back to the NFL? He never got the chance with Vic here.
I don't think Bobby would want to go be a coordinator.
Where is he coaching now? Is he still at Western Kentucky or something?
I think he's at Louisville.
He's not Louisville's coach. No way. No way. Either way, let me see. Where is Bobby P?
Yeah, no. I he may be unemployed.
Missouri State.
Missouri State. Oh, yeah. Never mind. Yeah, he'll take that job tomorrow.
No, yeah, he would take that job. Pay raise, and he gets to look good again. And he'll never get an NFL opportunity just because of what he did. Fuck him. Nonetheless, next, let's get to the AFC champ, Bengals.
Hold on.
I'll lead us into this one.
Real quick. I said you trip. He said maybe. Kid is special and he works hard. Sky's the limit. A championship would be more fun if they're homegrown. His sky is not KD.
His sky isn't KD. KD will be a better basketball player than him until KD retires. And so,
yeah, right. Maxey's sky is.
If he's on another team, he could potentially be one of those guys that in his career is a 1 to 2-time All-Star. That's his sky.
Yeah, his sky is Gilbert Arenas on a good day. If he's lucky. And I don't think it's that high.
You send a guy like Maxey to play in Indiana, and
he won't do what Gilbert did when Gilbert came to Washington.
Maybe he averages 25 a game, but they're never in the playoffs. Like those are his numbers, and that's the thing too. I mean, I hate to bring in a friend of mine that plays in the league, but he averaged 24 point something, almost 25 points a game too, and he was.
I don't want to talk about him because I don't like the way the league's disrespecting him, and I'm ready to. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Very disrespectful. But
Bengals. Did the Bengals roar back?
I think so. So I know that some people – I think the talent is just there. It's just there. The defense plays well enough. They're kind of weak in the secondary, but offensively, it's all there. And Joe Burrow, the thought is he really took a step in the second half of the season last year, and that's why it propelled him to the Super Bowl. Joe shows that he's cool. Joe shows that he improves because we've seen it. We saw it in college, and we got to see it in year 2 in the NFL. I really like them to win that division. Joe Mixon's still got plenty of tread on those tires. They've got arguably
how's that backhand?
They've got arguably the well, hey, we'll see. Because he had appendix. What did he have? Something that just got done. It wasn't his appendix, or was it?
Let's see.
I think it was his appendix. He got something. Joe Burrow. I think it was his appendix.
You said Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon.
You said backhand. You're such a dick, man. You're a penis for that.
I mean, he stiff arms with his backhand. It's a real strong stiffy.
Joe Burrow did have his appendix removed, but nonetheless, I think that Joe's got a mean stiff arm. I'll leave it at that. And so, really good. And he's an every down back. I like him. I like T. Higgins. Obviously, Jamar Chase is a superstar. Basically, he might as well already be superstar. They lost TJ Uzomedi. Yeah, and I think he went to the Jets. And so, another thing about the Jets, they added him. Solid pickup. I'm just saying, solid pickup. But either way,
got 2 frisky teams.
Zach Taylor being a
can Zach Taylor coach?
We're going to find out this year, really. But Zach Taylor is still a part of that tree of the McVay, Shanahan. Those guys all work together. So, I mean, he certainly is in a position. He's got his quarterback. He's got his receivers. He's got his running back. The offense should have no problem. I like them to win that division. And I guess, like I said, at the end, we'll do the playoff picture. But I like them specifically to win.
So, So you're telling me that the Steelers are going to be last in the division?
I'm telling you that that's true. Yeah, like that team's going to be.
I
They're not even
struggle.
going to be bad. They're going to be in so many games they just won't win them.
I struggle with them being bad. 'Cause I haven't seen it.
Well, hey, we had never saw Russell Wilson not have a winning season, and last season I said, you know what? They're not going to have a winning season. Russell Wilson plays for another team now. Look, some things, all good things come to an end. I think we've all heard that saying, right? All good things do come to an end. And Mike T's had a hell of a run. I remember, I think it was like during the season last year, they were trying to make it come to a run sooner than it should have, talking about him going to USC and him talking about they don't have a big enough checkbook to do
that was some of the most disrespectful shit ever. Like, you're talking about a man who
never coached college.
His peers were Andy Reid, Sean, not Sean Garrett.
No, man, put him in there. He's not in the Bill tier, but Bill is still a peer. He's been
Sean Payton. Hey,
he's coached in 2 Super Bowls.
His peers are Sean Payton and Andy Reid. That's it.
Those are the perfect guys.
The guys who've been coaching 15 plus years, and
one franchise.
Not even with one franchise, but 15 plus year coaches.
Andy did about 13 or 12 in Philly, and now he's even been in Kansas City for about 8 or 9.
If he's going to be the first coach to coach 10 plus years with 2 teams at the end of this year,
and take them both to Super Bowls.
That too. But here's the thing about Coach T. He gets so disrespected by the traditional sports media because they call him a motivator. That's code word for he can't coach. He's just a rah-rah guy.
Code word for he's a nigga, and he's able to speak to the players, and that's all he's really good at is hyping his guys up and telling them, "Hey man, we got to go out here and do business."
Right. If you could throw Pete Carroll in his peer group too, but these guys are.
I didn't even think. Pete's there.
They're the best of the best. That's not Bill. You know what I mean? They've been consistent with it.
They're practically outside of the young gun, McVay, and even though Shanahan's coached in the Super Bowl, McVay, Shanahan, now Taylor, those guys.
Don't put Taylor in their name. No.
He coached in the Super Bowl. Him and Kyle Shanahan have done the same thing, and he did it in a shorter.
You saw how you remember last year on Shanahan. I was like, is he really a good head coach or is he an offensive coordinator? I think he proved me wrong.
I think he's a good head coach.
I think he proved me wrong.
He's a great head coach. He's maybe the best offensive coordinator.
Absolutely.
Just looking at what he did in Houston, what he did in Washington, and of course what he did here, I think he's arguably, you could put him in, man, he's a top tier OC. Just like DQ was a top tier DC. You know, I think Quinn in his second time will be I think he'll be a solid head coach. I'm gonna send you. I was listening to this the Doomsday podcast. It's a Dallas Cowboys podcast. I listened to it because I like Ed Warder and the other guy, I can't think of his name. I really like him. They interviewed DQ last week. Great listen. Like Ed Ward is such a Dallas Cowboys fucking home. Like, I swear to God, he was always the ESPN beat writer for them for the just like Sal Palantonio is the Eagles guy. Like,
yeah, but Warner's a Dallas guy. But listen to DQ talk, and he talked about like his standing in the organization with the weird stuff with McCarthy, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I get it. I coach with Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris is a head coach in this league. Like, should be a head coach in this league. Like." I had to deal with that on my sideline. I understand what that role is like and how you feel when you go, my right-hand man might be better than me.
I don't think that was what was plaguing DQ, but certainly that last year, he knew that was coming in. He was on the hot seat. And after we blew that second game, when we blew the Chicago game, it was time. And they shouldn't have let it last past that, but they did. But nonetheless,